He is on your left. Robert Vaughan is on your right. Black-White Control versus four-color Rally. We'll be underway here in just a moment. We're underway here in game number 1 of round number 3. It's Black-White Control. It's four-color Rally. Rob going to start by sacrificing Evolving Wilds. Jeff with just a couple of lands to start. So now I take a look at Jeff's deck list here because I'm looking for updates, any new cards. Grasp of Darkness, kind of a reprint that went under the radar. -4/-4 for double black. 4 copies of that in his deck. Again, he is a control deck that's looking to stave off elimination, get to those planeswalkers, and secure the way. So a pretty healthy inclusion there.
If you can, if the mana works out for you, and that's the biggest criticism of that card right now, is double black's a hard thing to do. You get situations where you get to kill Anafenza while you're on the draw. You have an answer to Dragonlord Ojutai. Kills every 2-mana threat's going to kill, and it's going to kill a lot of 3 and even 4-mana threats as well.
Robert Vaughan, he's going to play a Jace. Now, the one thing that Jeff's deck does not have any difficulty doing is killing creatures. That's not hard for him to do, and that creature is dead right now. Jeff will have to pay some mana to cast that Ruinous Path, but he gets the job done, and now we head back Robert Vaughan's way.
Though it's hard to play the removal game against Rally, because Collected Company accrues a lot of card advantage, as does Grim Haruspex, and the longer and longer the game goes on, the more likely that Rally or Collected Company just buries you.
Vaughan will sacrifice a Windswept Heath. He'll be digging up a Canopy Vista, 2 basics out there in Swamp and Island, so the Vista will enter the battlefield untapped. Talking to Rob a little bit before the tournament did begin, he said the first thing I did when I picked up this deck is I just goldfished to figure out what lands I'm supposed to search for.
Well, it's a 3-color deck splashing double white, so the mana is not simple.
Scoured Barrens here from Jeff. That'll allow him to gain a life. Catacomb Sifter will bring a Scion along with it here in just a moment. There is a Scion for Rob Vaughan. And now Jeff will just pass the turn back. So, Vaughan will draw a card. It's a copy of Jace for the turn. We'll see how he wants to navigate his way through this turn. By the end of our previous standard format, where Battle for Zendikar was the newest card, the talk amongst the community is that this is the best deck in four-color Rally.
And recently won Grand Prix Oakland in the hands of Reed Duke.
Indeed it did.
Quite the endorsement.
You take a look at the Standard Classic that did take place in Charlotte. Michael Majors lost in the finals to Matthew Tickle, both those players playing four-color Rally as well. So it has been everywhere recently, and the results really do speak for themselves.
And something that was really noteworthy, I think in Major's article, was that he said, I view this deck as a creature deck first and a combo deck second. The quality of creatures in the deck, very, very high. You very rarely get rallies that kill your opponent on the spot, as opposed to previous builds where you had various haze threats and ways to give Intimidate and so forth. You are playing a grindy value game where Rally and Collected Company are kind of the nails in the coffin. But you can win games straight up just on your creatures.
An attack the Catacomb Sifter and the Eldrazi Scion. Post-combat, Rob's going to sacrifice the Scion and tap a blue mana for Jace. So Jace and Liliana come down on the same turn. A Secure the Ways here for Jeff is going to bring 2 soldiers. And now we're going to head back Hoogland's way. What Vaughan is doing with this deck does very well, presenting threats, playing creatures, as Michael Majors likes to say, and now he can start maybe flipping those creatures into planeswalkers, work his way towards rallying Collected Company, and just build an insurmountable board. Now, Other End going to take care of Jace. I always find it interesting when there are 2 powerful cards out there like Jace and Liliana. Which one are you supposed to kill?
Well, Jeff can't win a long game, I feel like, if Jace flips. He's not very good at pressuring planeswalkers himself. And the spells in Vaughn's decks are so good that he can't handle the flashback. So Liliana's unpleasant to have him play as well, but I think Jeff just has to get Jace off the table.
Vaughan going to tap some mana here. Looks like it's going to be a morph. Typically in this deck, it's Grim Haruspex. Sometimes you'll see Den Protector. Sometimes you'll even see Death Mist Raptor.
Yeah, Death Mist Raptor is more of a sideboard card for matchups where the combo's a little harder to execute. You expect it to be a sloggy sort of battle. Game 1, almost certainly Grim Haruspex, though, as you mentioned, not a guarantee. Some of these decks do have a copy or 2 of Den Protector.
5 mana here for Jeff. He's made it into the middle stages of this game. I wouldn't say we're in the late game just yet. He's thinking about maybe casting an Ob Nixilis Reignited, 3 copies of that card in his deck this weekend.
But you can see the struggle here that Hoogland's going to have in the matchup, at least game 1. His deck is very good at playing defense, but it's hard for him to defend himself against this number of sort of interlocking card advantage, grindy threats, to say nothing of how is he going to be Collected Company or Rally when those cards start showing up.
Jeff wants to know what Liliana does when it flips, which is, a reasonable question because we don't see it flip all that often, but when we do, it's quite powerful. The front end, well, it's a 2/3 lifelinker. That part's pretty simple, and then when it dies, it brings a zombie along. When a non-token creature dies, it brings a zombie along with it. Now, when it does flip, it starts on 3. +2 each player discards a card. So -X, you get to bring back a non-legendary creature from your graveyard straight to the battlefield. The -8 doesn't come up very much. You get an emblem, it does some cool things, but Liliana does cause some major issues here.
You can see Jeff was, I think, debating playing Ob Nixilis and minusing that turn, but if you kill the Grim Horror Specs, then Liliana flips. If you kill the Liliana, then Rob gets to unmorph the Grim Horror Specs, draw a card, and then you have to double chump block to keep your Ob Nixilis in play. And that's what I'm saying about Hoogland having some trouble positioning himself as a defender in the matchup, because Vaughan can play the granity value game with Jeff very easily, and the top end of what Rob does is significantly more powerful than what Jeff does.
Now let's talk about a new card. Let's talk about Reflector Mage. Let's talk about a card that a lot of people have been talking about for this deck. This card is busted in this deck.
Super good, super powerful to collect a company into, super powerful to rally back. Also just kind of good at buying time and slowing the game down and gumming up the works. I think it fits multiple roles for this deck.
Murderous Cut is going to take care of Grim Horror Specs, which means that Liliana is going to flip. You talk about synergy-based decks. You think a couple of years ago about decks like the Aristocrats. Blasphemous Act with Boros Reckoner, or just grinding your opponent into a pulp with a lot of value cards. I think this is that kind of deck on steroids.
Yeah.
You kill one creature, oops, something else happened. You kill all the creatures, well, they're all coming back from the graveyard from Rally. It can play a shorter game, but it's very comfortable playing a long game against a deck like Jeff's.
If you're going to play this sort of game and have a good matchup game 1 against Rally, you have to have some counter spells. If you don't have answers to spells, it's only a matter of time because they're going to be able to trade and scry and draw cards. And, Rally can hang around with the types of decks that Hoogland's presenting here, these token threats and planeswalkers. Rob can win the entire game straight up.
Now, Rob wants to bring back Jace, but you can't bring back Jace with Liliana. It's a non-legendary creature. So now he's got to figure something else out to do. Now, he could bring back Horror Specs if he wants to. He'd have to cash in his Liliana to be able to do that, but Liliana's good. It's not that good. And this may change actually his planning for the turn. All right, he will cash in Liliana, get back Grim Horror Specs. And Horror Specs is powerful enough that it does demand to be killed again, in my opinion.
Yes. But you kill that. That's another spell that you've spent. It's another scry for Vaughan. Slowly but surely. The game is getting into a spot where Rally is going to end you.
Hoogland with quite a few cards in hand. Ob Nixilis still in the grip. Looks like another copy of Secure of the Way, so we know about Seeker of the Way because that got bounced from Reflector Mage.
I guess something beneficial for Hoogland right now is that Vaughan is working without Nantuko Husk or any other sack outlet. So Rally is not something he has to worry about just yet.
It's not the end-all, be-all. Ob Nixilis is going to come on down, get a counter, pay left to draw a card, will Jeff. And now we're going to head back Robert Vaughan's way. He'll draw a card. For Vaughan, 5 lands. Mana does not appear to be an issue. Colors are all there. The creatures on the battlefield, a Catacomb Sifter, a Reflector Mage, a Grim Horror Specs, a zombie from Liliana, and it looks like 2 more are on the way because here's Eclectic Company.
And just look at Hoogland's life total. Vaughan is kind of winning the game just with creature combat right now.
Well, you said he didn't have Nantuko Husk. He does now, along with Sidisi's Faithful. Sidisi's Faithful will trigger from Exploit. Well, let's get a token out of here. Horror Specs and Catacomb Sifter will trigger. So scry and draw. Very well done. And now attacking looks clear for takeoff. The question, of course, is do I want to attack you or do I want to attack Ob Nixilis? Creatures are coming in no matter what, and I think he did just point straight to Jeff and says, I don't care about Ob Nixilis. I'm coming after you, buddy. And now Vaughan will just pass the turn back. Remember, both these players are coming to this weekend with 2 buys. So their first match of the day. For Jeff, he does have a copy of Gideon Hand Sorin as well. And those Planeswalkers are powerful, but they're not very good on this board.
You need to extract value over time for them to be really effective, and Jeff has very little time.
Jeff's going to start by taking down Ob Nixilis to take care of the Grim Horror Specs. Rob will sacrifice the Horror Specs to the Nantuko Husk, which means a scry will take place. Here's Seeker of the Way, and now just a passing of the turn. Back to Vaughan will go. He'll draw a card. Looks like he may have picked up another copy of Collected Company. He will cast Collected Company. Top 6, we'll see if he can find a way to get this Seeker of the Way off the battlefield. Maybe clear a route for his creatures. Elvish Visionary Reflector Mage, that'll do just fine as Jeff Hoogland will scoop up his lands. Robert Vaughan going to win game number 1 here over Jeff Hoogland. 4-color rally up a game over Black-White Control. And I'll tell you, we'll get to the sideboard here in just a second, but game 1 sure does seem tough for Jeff.
Well, if you're applying a lot of pressure and kill rally before they get set up, that's one path. Or if you lock them out of the game and have counter spells for their spells, that's another way to do it. But if you're just kind of futzing around in the middle with removal spells and planeswalkers and, a couple card drawing spells, Rally is going to swallow that stuff up, and you saw it on display there. Jeff had a totally fine hand, but just wasn't able to hang with Vaughn's synergy and card advantage.
Well, we'll see what he can bring to the table with 3 Duress, 3 Hallowed Moonlights, 2 Transgress the Mind, 2 Monastery Mentor, 2 Kalida's Trader of Get, a Flaying Tendrils, a Planar Outburst, and a Dark Petition.
So I can get behind the Flaying Tendrils here and Infest that Exile seems great for the matchup. The 3 copies of Hallowed Moonlight, of course, specifically for this kind of matchup. I can get behind the Transgress the Mind for this matchup too. Duress, yes, there are some spells in the deck that are extremely powerful, but typically there's only 8, maybe a few more in the sideboard. Transgress the Mind gets all, I guess it doesn't get Rally, but it does get Collected Company, which is, I think, the bigger issue, and also hits a bunch of the 3-mana threats in the deck as well. So I like Transgress the Mind, a little skeptical about Duress.
On the other side of things here for Robert Vaughan, 3 Dispel, 3 Anaffense of the Foremost, 3 Irrational Clerics, 2 Duress, 2 Murderous Cut, Reflector Mage, and Fleshbag Marauder.
Based on what I saw of that game, I would definitely want to have an additional copy of Reflector Mage here. It seems great against Jeff's various mid-range threats. Beyond that, I can kind of get behind Duress. Hoogland's got a lot of spells, and you can expect Hallowed Moonlight or something similar to come in here, but the Dispels, the Anaffenzas, the Fleshbag Marauder, Hoogland's got a lot of token generation. I would sideboard pretty light here.
Well, those are the options there for both players. They'll shuffle up and get ready here for game number 2. Jeff Hoogland will be on the play. In the meantime, we will talk about Star City Games and its apparel that is available, as the official shirt of StarCityGames.com is available. 50% cotton, 50% polyester. So it is a poly shirt, along with being screen printed in the United States. Go.starcitygames.com/apparel for more information where you can find those. You can find Star City Games hoodies, beanies, and a bunch of other stuff, and you can be like Tom Ross there. Look at the boss makes for a great male model.
But you're allowed to, as you can see by our other model here, you're allowed to smile also if that's, if that's your thing. It's up to you.
Well, the boss.
It's your shirt, once you buy it.
The boss is all business. You know that.
Yeah, of course.
Come on now. Go.starcitygames.com/apparel for more information about the official shirt and official apparel for StarCityGames.com. As Robert Vaughan did win game number 1, so we'll learn more about him. Someone that you and I are pretty familiar with, South Jersey guy, Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey for the 22-year-old. 2 open top 8s, but I think over the course of 2016, we're going to see quite a few more.
Well, I know that he's committed to getting the Players' Championship this year, and he's alluded that he will have significant school and work responsibilities that will take him away from the tour as the year progresses. So a lot of pressure on him in Season 1 to get the job done. I know he intends on going to all the Opens, the Invitational as well, and he's going to have a real push here to be able to get to the Players' Championship, but his results have been good.
He can legally fly a plane by himself before buying a car. He does work in air traffic control. That's actually where he's going to be going later this year. So he's looking to make that push, as you mentioned, for season number 1, and he is a snowboarding enthusiast. And given what's happening up there in the Northeast, he might be pretty happy when he gets back home.
Yeah, plenty of opportunity to do. Even down here, it was snowing this morning.
A little touch, a little sprinkle taking place here in Atlanta. And from what I've heard, Atlanta does not deal with snow very well.
No, I've heard similar reviews.
So we might be stuck, like the old days. Might be stuck for a day or two. I'm just saying. They don't have plows and salt here, man. That's not really a thing. It's not going to be as bad as, I think it was Indy 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Where we got hard locked. We taunted the snow, and then the snow won.
You had to stay for 3 days.
Yeah, it was me. You got out on the only flight that left the airport.
Yeah, the airport was empty, and they're just like, there's one flight going back to Los Angeles. It's like, okay, sure. I'll take it and get out of here. The last plane out.
Yeah, I wouldn't have risked it. I would have just stayed put, which I did. But I'll never forget that morning as Jeff's going to take a mulligan down to 6 here, where I went to go turn on the faucet, and it just made the worst sound I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Nothing came out.
Well, to me, the moment of we are in some trouble was, Sunday rolls around. We kind of see the weather as we're walking to the site, but we're inside for the most part. We don't see it. And then we hear someone mention they closed the Steak and Shake.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was it.
It's like, okay, this has got to be a national emergency. There's no way they would close down the Steak and Shake down here unless it's not safe for human beings to be here.
Jeff going to fire off a duress. We'll take a look at Rob's hand. He's going to hit a Rally Ancestors. There is another one left behind, however. There's also a Jace over there, a Nantuko Husk, and a couple of other cards. So not a bad hand here for Vaughan, though it looks like his hand is a little bit reliant on Jace actually sticking around.
Yeah, his hands, you know, the mana's not good. He's missing black mana, and the threats themselves aren't very good. Jace corrects a lot of problems, so there's going to be pressure on Jeff to be able to answer it, but if Jeff fails to answer it, Rob's still fine. If he answers it, Rob's hand's pretty poor.
There is the island. Here is a Jace. We're going to head back Jeff's way. He'll draw a card. Secure the Waste was the draw. There is a swamp, and it looks like Jace is going to live. So, over to Vaughan. Eclectic Company, I believe, was the draw. He'll activate Jace right away. Another Jace was the draw. I do not think Rob Vaughan has a third land, so now things will get a little bit more interesting. What does Rob Vaughan want to discard here? It looks like it'll be a Leal Eternal Pilgrim. A new card that hopefully we'll get to see in action at some point. But in the meantime, Secure the Waste here from Jeff.
I think this card's a big addition for the deck. It's another Nantuko Husk style thing. I think the other powers on the card are relevant. The exiling is going to come up, and it does shore up the Atarka Red matchup in a way that Nantuko Husk does not.
Murderous Cut will take care of the Jace. An attacker with 2 soldiers. Vaughan with some mana issues, just going to play another Jace past that turn back. Jeff will quickly untap and take a draw here. Can he kill Jace yet again? That's the question. The answer is yes. Grasp of Darkness will take care of that. Here's an attack for 2. Vaughan will draw another copy of Eclectic Company. All he can do is pass the turn back. Over to Jeff we go. And this will be a great turn to play that Gideon.
And I thought it was almost good enough for him to play last turn instead of killing Jace. Jeff's deciding to play see if he can get Jace off the table, but now Gideon's excellent.
Gideon will bring a ally along with it. Now Vaughan does finally find land number 3 for Catacomb Sifter number 1. That'll bring a Scion token along with it. And now we'll head back Jeff's way, who is certainly ahead in this game, but Rally can catch up very quickly with Collected Company. And we know that Vaughan has at least one of those in his hand. Hoogland gonna cash in his Gideon. Gonna get an emblem to give all his creatures +1/+1. That leads me to believe that he's got another Planeswalker, and he does here in Sorin. That'll plus, and this is a pretty healthy attack here. So the Knight Ally is going to be a 4-power creature. And the rest will be 3-power creatures.
Yeah, you can see Vaughan's plan here is to just kind of try to chump, keep his head above water, and hope that Rally catches him up. Going to be hard. He's under a ton of pressure right now, to say nothing of the fact that he's missing a bunch of land drops.
It's going to have to be lands off the top for the next couple of turns here, I think. And they're going to have to enter the battlefield untapped. Fortunate for him, he does have 2 basic lands, so that means that battle lands will enter the battlefield untapped. Now he's just got to figure out how he wants to do some blocking here, because it looks like he's in some real trouble. Looks like Catacomb Sifter is going to jump in front of the Knight Ally. So down those go. Actually, may have just been a regular soldier from Secure the Waste, pardon me. They do look a little similar. Here's Collected Company. So Vaughan did find a land that enters the battlefield untapped. And this could be a big find here. A card like Sidisi's Faithful is pretty good.
So Sidisi's Faithful of those Visionaries, a nice set of cards. You get to draw another card, get to get a token off the table. Now you have a 0/4 that's looking at some creatures that are smaller than that.
Zilliport Cutthroat was the draw. Visionary will be sacrificed to the Exploit. Get the token out of there. Doing a pretty nice job of stabilizing thus far is Vaughan. He is at 6, however, where Jeff is at 30, and Jeff does have an active Sorin out there. Jeff will untap, take a draw here. Down goes Sorin, Vampire token on the way. Jeff thinking Kalatus, I believe. That and Read the Bones in hand right now. Let's go Read the Bones instead. Jeff opting to take the turn off here. He'll scry 2. Planter Outburst and Plains, the card he's looking at. Those are both going to go to the bottom, it appears, so 2 fresh ones coming here for Jeff. Scoured Baron among those cards. There is a Scoured Baron. Jeff will go up to 29. And no attack to be had. So Vaughan will draw. Reflector Mage in hand. Looks like he'll start with Zilliport Cutthroat. Sacrifice there. Trigger. Here's Reflector Mage. Get that vampire out of here.
Vaughan is starting to get some pretty serious breathing space here.
Yep. This is starting to get pretty tough for Jeff. He's going to have some good draws here. And we'll have to find out if Kalidas, the Trader of Get, can play a role in things in this game. Because Jeff does have one of those in his hand. 2 of those in his sideboard this weekend.
Synergy with Sorin. Vampire Tribal.
Hello.
I was hoping that was going to come up.
Get some Nighthawks out there, maybe a little Vampire Nocturnus. Now we're really talking. Can we get a Bloodghast reprint?
Senger Vampire.
Is that in your Fallen Empires box?
No, it's in Alpha.
There's Kalidas.
Works really well with Senger Vampire because once your vampire is larger, they start chump blocking, and then the vampire, it keeps growing. You're kind of going infinite at that point.
Here's the 3/4 lifelinker. That's some pretty liberal use of infinite there.
Yeah.
If a non-token creature opponent controls would die, instead exile that card and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield.
And this card's a little problematic for Rally. It's not game over by any stretch, but it does mess up some of the, all right, I'm going to rally, sack everything to my Nantuko Husk, and then rally again sort of setups.
But also, if you just start picking off creatures through removal, they're just gone forever.
Yeah, that's the easy way to do it. But I think that second box of text there is going to mess up some of the rally synergies that the deck's trying to execute.
And you see 3 mana, 2 and a black. Sacrifice another vampire or zombie. Put 2+1/+1 counters on Kalidas.
So many synergies.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with this thing.
Because it's vampires.
Yeah. Or even zombie tribal.
Yeah. Lot to like.
Sacrifice Charles Messenger. Trigger.
Oh.
Get it back. I could do this all day.
I played Drawless Messenger in an invitational card. It's no joke.
Collective Company is no joke either. Top 6 here for Vaughan. There's a Jace. There's a Grim Horror Specs. Let's make it 2 Horror Specs. Sunken Hollow. That one's not eligible. But some good options here for Robert. Looks like Alil and Jace are going to come in. There's the Eternal Pilgrim. Now, you said you liked this one.
I think it's great in this deck. You get another Nantuko Husk effect. There's sometimes the deck doesn't really operate because it's lacking a Husk. Now you're a little bit more redundant there. 2/3 Death Touch is just a great blocker early on in the game. Sometimes Rally struggles a little bit the first couple turns getting its gloves up. And that last part of text is relevant. Not going to come up in every single game, but this is a deck that, with various Zilliport Cutthroat triggers and certainly sacrificing things and gaining life, Arishan Clerics can get above 30, and this is another way to shut the door.
Vampire coming on in the air, and Jeff will just comfortably pass the turn back. Vaughan is down to 2. Remember, there is a Gideon Emblem out there, so Jeff's creatures are a little bit bigger than they appear, and then Soren's helping to bolster things as well. Now Hoogland kind of sitting comfortably here. Perhaps on his way to a 3rd game as Vaughan is going to fall down to 1 from the Flooded Strain. Can Robert Vaughan craft a game plan to get all the way back into this one?
And I think he's got to get the Vampire off the table, whether it's Reflector Mage or something else, to give himself the cushion to set up Rally. Right now his death triggers don't happen, and so a lot of what his deck is up to doesn't really work.
Here's a Jace activation, draw and discard. I believe he picked up a copy of Duress. And there goes Zilliport Cutthroat. Jace is going to transform. The Telepath Unbound is here. It'll start on 5. And Collective Company, obviously an option in the graveyard. Duress to start, how for Vaughan? Secure the waste for a whole bunch. That's going to bring along 6 2/2s. The card left over in Jeff's hand was Gideon. He'll have to discard that.
Yeah, I think at this point, Hoogland's perspective is I can go wide here. Your graveyard's not available to you, and it's going to be hard for you to block everything next turn, which is what you have to do.
I think Jeff is more than happy to go wide. You mentioned the block is going to be difficult. Also, they're going to be 3-power creatures.
Yeah, the Gideon doesn't really matter at this point very much.
Yeah. Vaughan will try Collected Company again. That's what he's going to recast with Jace. Take a look at the top 6. Elvish Visionary, Nantuko Husk, Reflector Mage in there. Liliana as well. But as you mentioned, the graveyard kind of shut off here because of Kaladeus.
Well, Reflector Mage Nantuko Husk seems like that's got. I don't know if this is enough for Rob to get back in. I guess Liliana's the other route here as well. But the Reflector Mage allows him to get Kaladeus off the table for 2 turns now.
Okay. So Reflector Mage is going to come in, bounce Kaladeus. Liliana comes in as well. Vaughan does have a spare mana to sacrifice a creature, gain some life equal to its toughness.
He has some blocks next turn. He can get Liliana flipped over. I don't know if this is a path to win the game here, but that Collected Company needed what it needed to hit for the game to continue.
Reflector Mage, kind of a silly card here. Playing a huge role in things.
Well, it's kind of the perfect card for Rally because it's great when you're just trying to play ABC Magic, and it's also great to have as a Rally target or a Collected Company target.
Vaughan going to sacrifice Sidisi's Faithful. He'll gain life equal to its toughness. There will be a trigger from Zilliport Cutthroat. So that I believe he'll gain 5 life here. Now Liliana will flip. And he also gets a zombie. And then he can bring back the Sidisi's Faithful.
Get the flyer off the table.
Yep, which it looks like he's going to do. Also get a Cutthroat trigger. Yep, so get the flyer off the table, gain a life. Goes back to the graveyard. Vaughn's now up to 7. Now those creatures, they're still pretty big.
Yeah.
Those are 2 2s that can become 3 2s thanks to Sorin. Now Jeff's going to kind of lay out the creatures and see, okay, how much can I get in here for? Gideon was the draw. Those creatures just got bigger if Jeff wants them to. And now Jeff's going to do a little bit of math and say, how much damage can I force through? Can I kill you right now?
And Vaughan without any sort of sack outlet right now. And no mana up, so Hoogland doesn't really have to worry too much about Zilliport Cutthroat. The math is all on the table.
Yep, he's just got to make sure that he gets it right. So here's Gideon. Cash it in for an emblem. So now all of these soldiers are going to be 3-3s. Sorin will take up, make him 4-3s, and that is going to do it. So Jeff Hogan's going to win game number 2 here over Robert Vaughan. Black-white control, 4-color rally, getting ready for game number 3.
Yeah, all the creatures there were 4 power, and Vaughan at 7 life, 5 blockers against 7 creatures, so that Elspeth was, or the Gideon, excuse me, was pretty much perfect for that spot.
Well, these players in a marathon affair here. Going to game number 3. Both players going to go back to the drawing board. Rob Vaughan will be on the play. And as they do get ready for game number 3, we got to talk about Grand Prix Washington, D.C. That's a Grand Prix that I'm certainly going to play at. I hope you are.
Unfortunately. I was going to play with Anand Kure and Mike Stein, 2 very good friends of mine from high school, but there's a conflicting wedding that weekend. I'm going to have to miss it.
Well, Patrick won't be there. I will be. So will a bunch of other players as well. We hope you guys will be after you find out more details about the Grand Prix right now.
On March 11th through the 13th, Magic the Gathering heads to the nation's capital as StarCityGames.com proudly presents Grand Prix Washington, D.C. Grab 2 friends to compete in the Team Sealed main event and receive a few extra allies in the form of 3 exclusive playmats, featuring Ondu War Cleric, Kor Sky Climber, and Malakir Soothsayer. In addition, we'll be bringing a few allies of our own, cosplayers Christine Sprankle and Jacqueline Foglia, along with an artist alley full of fan favorites, including guest of honor Therese Nielsen. Our 3-day Infinite Challenge option lets you compete in all challenge events over the weekend and receive a complete set of all 3 playmats. Prefer 100-card decks? Our Commander Celebration option includes a Zur the Enchanter playmat, a set of 5 Commander 2015 pins, and much more. Grand Prix Washington, D.C. will also feature an expanded side event schedule that now includes 2 Super Invitational qualifiers. Each Super IQ awards tons of prize wall tickets, along with 2 invites to an upcoming StarCityGames.com Invitational. So take the oath, gather your allies, and register for Grand Prix Washington, D.C. today.
March 11th through the 13th. We hope to see you there. StarCityGames.com/GPDC for more information. Take the oath, gather your allies, play some Team Sealed. One could argue the best format in Magic.
There's nothing like a team tournament.
They're fun, aren't they?
There's no comparison. I dislike it as a old and weathered tournament spike. I don't like the talking rules, but still great.
We'll be there. Well, I'll be there. Unfortunately, you won't be. So more details, again, StarCityGames.com/GPDC. Hope to see you there March 11th through the 13th. Jeff Hoogland's the player we're going to learn a little bit more about right now. For Jeff, number 1 on our Season 1 leaderboard, in great shape to qualify for the Players' Championship. We saw him there in 2014. Didn't see the Bloomington, Illinois native there in 2015, but he's looking to get there in 2016, and he is well on his way.
Yeah, and I think that with him being focused on Modern and the amount of Modern support on the SCG Tour, if he can keep replicating the results that we've seen in Cincinnati and Charlotte, he's going to be in Roanoke at the end of the year.
For Jeff, 12 Open top 8s, 1 Invitational top 8. Doesn't have that win yet, though. He's gotten very close in both the Modern Opens that we've had so far this year. And, you know, we'll see how this match plays out and the rest of this weekend plays out for his Black-White Control deck that had a heck of a win percentage at that Season 4 Invitational in Las Vegas last year.
Yeah, and it looked very impressive on camera as well. Very cool to see someone doing well with a 2-color deck, eschewing the 3rd color that appears free to support double colored spells in both colors.
Vaughan on the play. It's a Polluted Delta to start as we begin game number 3. A Scoured Baron here from Jeff. He will gain a life up to 21. Vaughan will fall down to 19 as he's going to search up a land. We'll see what he wants to find with the Polluted Delta. And there is a Sunken Hollow that'll enter the battlefield. Tapped for now. Turn number 2 here for Vaughan in just a moment. We've seen Jace early in the games for him. And Duress was the draw here for Rob. And it appears as though he does have a Jace in hand. He'll sacrifice that Windswept Heath, fall down to 18. See what land he wants to dig out of his deck.
Yeah, with Duress in hand, he could Duress this turn and set up Jace for next turn, but I suspect Rob believes there's very little removal in Hoogland's deck that can kill Jace when Hoogland's on the draw. And he may just risk it here.
Well, we did see Grasp of Darkness in game 2.
That's the one, but he has to have untapped black mana, and the Grasp's asking a lot.
There is a swamp and just a passing of the turn, so no Grasp of Darkness or any other 2-mana removal spell there for Jeff. Jace is good to go. Vaughan will start with an Elvish Visionary. That'll enter the battlefield. That'll draw a card. Looks like he picked up a copy of Rally. Now he'll activate Jace. 2 cards in the graveyard as he draws a Polluted Delta.
And Delta here, a really solid draw here for Vaughan as he can go get a swamp and Duress if he feels like it.
Zilliport Cutthroat was the discard. Vaughan deciding between that Delta and Canopy Vista. He will go with the Delta, fall down to 17, and we might have basic Swamp plus Duress on the way.
What's nice about this play, too, is now he's got 2 basics in play, so the Canopy Vista comes into play untapped next turn.
Yep.
Very efficient set of turns to set up here for Vaughan early on.
And now there is a Duress, so we get an idea of what Jeff is working with. You see a Secure the Waste. There's also a Read the Bones, an Utter End. Looks like a Gideon as well, so it's a slow hand here for Jeff.
Yep. And I believe that's Hallowed Moonlight second from the left.
3 of those in his sideboard here this weekend, clearly for this matchup. But I'm curious about what you think about Hallowed Moonlight against 4-color Rally, because if you take the Michael Major school of thought, I'm a creature deck that incidentally has this stuff.
You need other things going on. If it's a piece of a larger overall puzzle, that's great. If you're banking on it to win the game on its own, you're going to be disappointed.
Well, Duress will take care of Read the Bones, and Jeff says, fine, take that card. I was just going to draw one anyway. So he will cast a Read the Bones, will Jeff. Time for him to scry 2 at the cost of 2 life, and then he'll be drawing 2 cards here.
But noteworthy there of Vaughan taking Read the Bones the first time around. He's setting up to play an attrition and card advantage sort of game.
Which is something, as we saw in game number 1, he might be advantaged at doing, as he will draw cards. Zilliport Cutthroat is what he's found.
Game 1, he sort of just won with creature beatdowns. I mean, there was some other stuff going on, and the fact that he had all these synergistic creatures made it awkward for Jeff to sequence his removal the right way, but he just won with the beatdowns.
Jace for the draw and discard, and that means it'll transform here in just a minute as well. Looks like Vaughan might be discarding another copy of Zilliport Cutthroat. Not exactly what he's looking for at this stage in the game. There goes the Cutthroat. Jace will transform. And now the Telepath Unbound starting on 5. It's going to have to fall down to 2, Rob. There we go. Jeff knows that. Now here's Duress again. Murderous Cut, Secure the Ways, Hallowed Moonlight, Gideon, Utter End, and a couple of lands there in Swamp and Plains. Tough decision with the Duress. There's a lot of different pieces going on. Does he care about Hallowed Moonlight? Unclear. Don't have a great look at Rob's hand, but we also can't get in his head to see what his game plan is, though he does have a Rally in his hand. Gideon's always scary, of course, and as is Utter End. Now here's Nantuko Husk. Here's an attack for 1.
Yeah, under end allows Hoogland to get the Jace off the table, though Gideon is the only source of pressure right now, so there's an argument there. But I feel like Vaughan thinks he can manage the Gideon should Hoogland decide to do that with his fourth turn.
Well, it is noticeable, right? If your opponent has the opportunity to take Gideon when you can play it the next turn, choosing not to, then that kind of signifies that, hey, I don't really care about this thing. I care about your other end that can maybe do something that's relevant. So maybe Jeff doesn't even cast Gideon at all this turn.
Well, Vaughan, assume that Hoogland goes Gideon, put a 2/2 into play. If Vaughan has any removal spell or even any creature that bounces something, the Gideon leaves the table. So even though on the table it looks safe, there's so many cards in Vaughn's deck that allow him to untap and remove Gideon from the battlefield that it's probably a little too risky for Jeff to deploy it. He can set this up by casting Secure the Waste first, untap, then play Gideon. At least at that point you have a bunch of blockers and you're probably going to be able to keep the Gideon around.
Well, Jeff does not deploy the Gideon, just going to pass the turn back. So Vaughan will start by taking up Jace. Here come the attacks. And Jeff says, I have no interest in blocking. No Secure the Waste to be cast just yet. I'll wait. Now remember, this 4-color rally deck does have access to Dispel.
Yep.
Now here's the Galactic Company in response. So Vaughan will take a look at the top 6 while that Secure the Waste is on the stack. A touch awkward here, however.
Yeah, this was not great sequencing here from Rob. He should have allowed the Secure the Waste to resolve, held priority, and then collect a company. He wanted a company now to make sure he doesn't get hit with Hollow Moonlight. So that's all well and good. But you want the tokens to be in play, so if you hit some of your bounce creatures, there's some targets.
Yeah, Reflector Mage was found and did not get the opportunity to bounce anything. Now it is still a 2/3 that's good on this board, but one less token out there might end up mattering as we make our way into the mid-game.
Especially because the game is so often going to be a battle over planeswalkers that every creature that you have in play it makes it more or less likely if you're going to be able to knock out something like Gideon or Omnixilis on Hoogland's side of the table.
Well, Jeff has played his 5th land. It's a plane, so access to 5 mana this turn. And now we'll see where he wants to go with this 5 mana. He does have a Grasp of Darkness. Looking to take care of the Eternal Pilgrim. Down. It's going to go, it appears. Though Vaughan will sacrifice it to Nantuko Husk, making Husk a 4/4 right now. And now here's a Murderous Cut to go after Reflector Mage.
And this is the cost of the mistake that Vaughan made last turn. With one less token in play, Jace is alive. Yep. Instead, Jace is dead.
Jeff able to take advantage of that mistake in a big way.
Yes, that one matters.
Vaughan with only a single white mana on the battlefield right now in Canopy Vista, so Rally is not on the table. And yep, and now I think he just realized the mistake he made now. He only has a single white mana. The follow-up is the Eternal Pilgrim. There's an Evolving Wilds. But you see, Vaughan has made a few mistakes here this game.
Well, the bigger issue now is that he can't do anything with Rally because he knows about the Moonlight in Hoogland's hand.
Yep. Here's Gideon. That'll bring a Night Ally along with it. And now, Evolving Wilds is going to probably dig a Plains out of the deck, but as you mentioned, Rally's a turn late.
Yeah,
he thought he could cast it last turn, and he can't.
And now the pressure's on Vaughan to be able to figure something out here because Hoogland can just hang back, work Gideon, get a board into play, and Vaughn's going to fall behind pretty quickly.
Windswept Teeth is the draw. Now in situations like this, where you saw some body language from Vaughan where he certainly realized his mistake with the Rally last turn, there's a Windswept Teeth. Got to regain a little bit. He's in a bad spot here, but he still has avenues to win the game.
Yes. Well, if he draws a Duress, suddenly he's in great shape.
Absolutely he is.
Or a Dispel if he happened to bring that in. If he has some way to fight back against the Hollow Moonlight, all of a sudden he's in a great position. But he needs to get to it pretty soon because Jeff's going to be able to start applying some pretty significant pressure.
Well, that's exactly what he's doing with the Gideon now. It's going to go up. It's an attack for 5. Vaughan looks like he's going to fall down to 12. Let's make it 11 from the Windswept Teeth. See what land Vaughan wants to search up here. It'll be a Prairie Stream.
Even Collected Company might be enough to force Hoogland's hand.
Vaughan will draw a card. It's a copy of Eldritch Visionary. That'll allow for some redraws here. Picked up another copy of Flooded Strand. Now it's just a passing of the turn. Let's go back Jeff's way. He'll draw. There's a swamp for Jeff. Gideon going down. An emblem, and maybe, just maybe, these other creatures are going to start attacking.
I think Hoogland's sequencing with Gideon has been really sharp over the course of this match.
Yeah.
Knows when he needs to beat down, knows when he needs to make tokens, knows when he wants to beat down one turn so he can make an emblem, then still have the Gideon play the following turn.
Vaughan going to sacrifice his Flooded String, get another land out of the deck. He's trying to thin it out to increase his chances to draw a good card just a little bit here. Not those percentages do add up over time. But he really needs a duress here. Catacomb Sifter.
Catacomb Sifter is also not bad here. Board's a little clogged up here. Getting a scry for all of Vaughan's chump blocks. Increases the speed with which he can get to Duress, Dispel, Collected Company, another Rally, something to punch through Solid Moonlight.
In the meantime, Jeff's not drawing very much. Now, Jeff does have some huge draws here. But he's just sitting on that Hallowed Moonlight. There's a Scoured Baron. That'll bring him up to 12. Looks like he's just going to make a Knight Ally with Gideon and pass the turn back. Vaughan will untap. He'll draw.
And I like no attacks there from Jeff. Setting aside how combat looks, he doesn't really want to allow Vaughan to scry for free. If Hoogland makes a large attack there, Vaughan gets to chump block pretty easily or even trade off, and then suddenly he's scrying and looking for some of his marquee cards.
A Shambling Vent and a passing the turn of the card I think Jeff's looking for right now is Secure the Waste.
Secure would be great.
Yep. I think that's the backbreaker. Vaughan's going to sacrifice the Eldrazi Scion so he can get a scry. Top card's going to go to the bottom pretty quickly there. Not what he was looking for. But Jeff has got himself into a situation where Hallowed Moonlight's a real backbreaker.
You know, it's got to be a piece of a puzzle, like we said. It's not going to win the game on its own, but if you start applying pressure or squeezing them from other angles, it might be too much for them to overcome.
Visionary. Take a draw. Duress.
All right.
Now, I don't think you cast Duress right now. I think you wait.
We need to do everything in one shot.
Well, for what it's worth, I think he might be safe to cast Duress because he could rally for 2 there, 2 Zillipore Cutthroats down there.
Okay.
And then he can just go nuts. There is Duress. Jeff wants to know what the heck's going on down there.
How bad is it going to be?
Might be game ending.
Pretty bad.
Jeff, ooh, a second Hallowed Moonlight in hand. And that is rather fortunate. So that Duress is not a game ender. Curious if Jeff could have trapped him there.
Oh, just in response, Hallowed Moonlight?
Yeah. Rob makes his move.
I think the Hallowed Moonlights are at enough of a premium that I'd rather just have one left over in my hand. There's an argument for trying to trap him, but I think given the way the board looks.
Well, here is Colitis, the trader get.
Another piece of the puzzle, because I think the other card in Vaughan's hand besides the rally that we know about is a copy of Grim Horror Specs. I think that he was trying to set up, all right, untap, draw some cards, chump block some, get to look for another discard spell, et cetera, et cetera. Now that's off the table too.
Now Jeff is very comfortable attacking here with Gideon and these 3 Knight allies, which are currently 3 power creatures. Now the card in hand was actually a copy of Murderous, because I thought it was a Horror Specs as well. I thought he was setting up. So this is actually pretty good for Vaughan.
Yes.
Because now he can do some blocking here. Now again, these are 3 Knight allies, so his blocks aren't great, but he can actually get some of these things off the board.
I think his blocks look pretty good here. You have, yeah, exactly. You do the blocks here that Vaughan did, where you're getting to sacrifice your 2 Elvish Visionaries to make sure your Nantuko has to become 4/4s against 3/3s. You take no damage. You get some scries for your trouble. This is not bad at all.
So there's sacrifice number 1, Scry. That's a Collected Company. I think that one's good enough to keep on top.
Yep.
There's block number 2. Keep it on top. 2 Knight allies down, no damage dealt, and now Vaughan is untapping.
It's a bit of an issue for Hoogland in the matchup. I've got the boards I'm ahead on the board, and Vaughan can't really do anything to, I'm really attacking for lethal. It takes him a long time. It's not easy for him to turn the corner and start attacking because he's all on the ground, and Rally's so good at blocking on the ground.
Now here's an interesting question. His collected company, it looks like Rob is sitting on it. I was curious if he wanted to play in his main phase, what he wanted to do. Here's a read the bones from Jeff. When do you want to fire this off?
I think the way that Vaughan wants to set this up, because he knows about the Moonlight, is do it when Hoogland makes an attack. Okay. I assumed that he was going to try to get inside of combat, and maybe Hoogland would go ahead and use the Hollow Moonlight, and if he doesn't, you have a chance to blow him out.
The thing here about Collected Company is I think it's the kind of card that Jeff actually has to let resolve.
Yeah, it's too risky to counter this and then have Rally in the game.
Reflector Mage going to come in and bounce a token. It was joined by a Catacomb Sifter, which will mean that an Eldrazi Scion will join the battlefield as well. Now Jeff will resolve his Read the Bones. Looks like both cards are going to go to the bottom. So 2 new cards coming, the cost of 2 life. Caves of Koilos among the cards that have been drawn. There's a Night Ally from Gideon. And I just don't think, it feels like Jeff just doesn't have good attacks this turn.
Oh, yeah, I mean, last turn, the combat went pretty poorly for him, and things have gotten worse.
On the upkeep, Vaughan is going to sacrifice that Eldrazi Scion. That means he's going to get 2 Scries as there are 2 Catacomb Sifters. Top 2 cards are now the bottom 2 cards. And maybe he wants to go further here. Looks like he's thinking about sacrificing Antuco Husk.
It wouldn't surprise me here if Vaughan felt like he has so many looks at a way to break up the Hollow Moonlight that he can be very aggressive digging.
He also gets a little bit of life in the exchange.
Yes.
You know, because he's sacrificing that to the Eternal Pilgrim. And now here's the Lepore Cutthroat. So that may be another wrinkle in the equation as we head back Jeff Hoogland's way. Now Jeff has an interesting card in his hand. It's a copy of Dark Petition. Now I don't know what he wants to find with that thing, but Spell Mastery is certainly on.
Well, the problem is that he's really short on proactive things he can go get that are excellent in this spot. I suppose he can go get a Duress. I don't mind getting Duress here if it's still in his deck.
I think that's reasonable.
If you're confident the last card is Rally, then you're still sitting back on Hollowed Moonlight. You still have your Planeswalker in play. And even if Rob happens to draw something great off the top, you're not just ice. We'll see what he wants to go get.
Yeah, because he's casting Dark Petition right now, and that is resolving. Now, Spell Mastery means that he'll be given 3 black mana. Typically, we see this card in Legacy Storm. We don't see it very much in Standard, but Jeff with 1 in his sideboard for matches that go late like this. So now we get to figure out what the plan's going to be. You see the clock here, about 2 minutes left in the match. Could be working ourselves into draw territory, perhaps. But Jeff has found his weapon of choice. And he's going to go with Kaleidos again.
This is the upside on this is a lot higher than getting Duress, but we know that Duress works. This can be broken up by Reflector Mage or removal spells and so forth.
That's what happened to the first one.
Jeff might feel like he has to get some pressure going, that he won't be able to stave off Vaughan for long enough if he goes and gets Duress.
See if Rob is going to respond here at all, because this shuts off a lot of what Rob's trying to do.
Yep.
Looks like he's going to sacrifice Reflector Mage. Going to gain a little bit of life from that. Scry twice, 2 cards going to the bottom. A little bit of math as Jeff is going to fall down to 9. Will Vaughan sacrifice something else? Looks like the answer is yes. Top card to the bottom. Next card, okay. That one's on top. It just feels like to me that he's digging very hard for Duress.
Yep. Although now he needs Duress And a removal spell.
Well, it depends on what's in the graveyard, right? Because if there's at least one Reflector Mage down there.
Oh, sure, yeah. Okay.
So Reflector Mage, bounce,
Yep.
Colitis, rock and roll, do your thing.
Yep.
You know, one card we haven't even seen yet is Sidisi's Faithful. Not sure if those are in after sideboard or not. Grasp of Darkness here from Jeff. Gonna go after Nantuko Husk. That's gone for good. As now we are in extra turns. Turn 0, it should be Jeff. We'll get confirmation, of course. That means Rob Vaughan should have turns 1, 3, and 5. Jeff turns 0, 2, and 4. Gideon appears to be going up. And Jeff wants to get some damage across. See what kind of blocks Rob wants to make here, if any. Looks like Catacomb Sifter is going to jump in front of the Gideon. That's going to bring Jeff another zombie. Now Vaughn's going to quickly untap. Now remember, he kept this card on top of his deck. And I think it might be Eclectic Company. Pass the turn back. That's not what I expected to see.
Yeah, I don't know if Collected Company, you know, at this stage, I feel like Jeff's had enough on the table that he can allow Collected Company to resolve, most likely.
However, what we don't know is how many Duresses Rob has after sideboard.
Yeah.
He's played 2.
And that's it. And if he doesn't have Dispel, that's his best route.
Gideon, along with a couple of other creatures, are coming to the red zone. Remember, there is a Gideon emblem on the battlefield. Here is Collected Company. Now, Jeff's draw for the turn was Secure the Waste. So if Rob doesn't find what he's looking for, this one's probably over. However, Jace might be what the doctor ordered.
Yes, Jace can give him a flashback of duress. And if Hoogland doesn't have a way to gain life, that might just be it.
What's so unique about this rally deck is you try to cover all the angles, but it's hard to cover them all.
Well, it's got to be backed up by pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, given enough time, this deck can work itself out of a lot of different jams because there's so much card advantage, there's so much recursion.
So many backdoor ways to casting your spells again.
And, you know, Jeff has been ahead for a long time here, but it's taken him an awful long time to get from ahead to applying lethal. And in that time, Vaughn's scryed a bunch, he's drawn a bunch of cards, he's had some good exchanges in combat, and that absence of sufficient pressure here might doom Jeff, even though he's had a lot of good things going on. He's drawn a bunch of good sideboard cards and so on.
And you see Jeff kind of pointing at his creatures that he's left back on defense. Vaughn's at 2 from the attack.
Yeah.
And so Jeff did not make a sufficient lethal attack here because he drew Secure the Waste. So maybe he was thinking he would get another turn, which is clearly not the case, or at least it appears that way. The discard will be Reflector Mage. Jace is going to transform. It looks like Jace is going to allow Vaughan to recast Duress. That's immediately what he's doing, ticking Jace down to 2. Duress now on top of the graveyard. Had Jeff attacked with more creatures and maybe Shambling Vents, and it's unclear how many he has down there in his lands, we might be looking at a different game, maybe a game that Jeff had won this turn.
Yeah, I mean, he could have attacked with everything and maybe even used his Hollow Moonlight on the Collected Company.
This is in response to the Duress, and Rob, well, we know he has a response. And I think Jeff knows that too, and it's Rally of the Ancestors. So a lot of things are on the way back. Couple copies of Reflector Mage, Nantuko Husk, Elvish Visionaries, and I can't keep up with them all.
Yeah, assuming that Vaughan does not mess up any triggers here, this should be good enough.
I think he might even be allowed to miss a few. I think it's important that he just gets the Reflector Mages, because he is bringing back a whole bunch of stuff. Looks like 3 Reflector Mages, 3 Elvish Visionaries, at least 1 Zillipore Cutthroat. Reflector Mage is going to bounce Colitis. Jeff, he's going to get some tokens for his trouble, but I also think he's going to die now. Going to bounce some other stuff, Will Vaughan, with these Reflector Mages. Remember, this is all with Hallowed Moonlight on the stack. That was Jeff's safety net the entire time. Rob has been trying to work his way through it. He found a way to recast the Duress thanks to Jace. He'll draw a couple of cards from those Elvish Visionaries. And now it's about just killing Jeff. And of course, this Duress, I suppose, still has to resolve as well. Here's a big Secure the Waste. And now, Vaughan will just kill him with Nantuko Husk, sacrificing a bunch of creatures from Zilliport Cutthroat triggers. Robert Vaughan going to win this match here over Jeff Hoogland 2-1. 4-color Rally will take care of black-white control. An entertaining affair between the two. But for Vaughan, top 16 on our leaderboard, beats number 1 on our leaderboard, an important win for him.
And you can tell the problem that mid-range strategies have against Rally and why so many people are fond of Rally and think it's the best deck in the format. It takes a multi-dimensional approach to have a good matchup here. I think Hoogland game 1 is a huge dog. And even post-board, you know, he found a lot of sideboard cards. He found a lot of exiling effects that